Now, if you take a look at our western border, there are upheavals that are taking place, particularly with regards to the beleaguered Afghan refugees, 1.7 million of them who after November 1st will be forced out of Pakistan. Now, there have been indications and actions that have been taken in this regard by the Pakistani forces, by the Pakistani government, but the question we ask here is, what is the motive for the Pakistani government to throw out the Afghan refugees? Point number one, this is being used by Pakistanis as a ploy, a bargaining chip for the Taliban government in place in Afghanistan to stop the TTP terror attacks that have been taking place frequently, that has led to a number of deaths, not just of the Pakistani forces, but of Chinese nationals and officers and engineers who have come down to Pakistan for years together to set up the CPEC projects. Now, there have been several meetings that have taken place in the last 1 year, just a few months ago. In fact, the latest one that had taken place in Tibet, which is then administered by China. China went about holding this meeting, allowing for the negotiations to take place with the Afghan leader and his counterpart in Pakistan coming to Tibet, holding that talks, and the prima facie focus of these talks was about the Afghan refugees. Just a couple of months ago, it was the Pakistani foreign minister who travelled all the way to Afghanistan, met the Taliban leader, and the Taliban assured that there have been arrests of the TTP terrorists that have taken place. They have been put behind bars, they are lodged in jails. Not just that, assurance have been given by the Taliban to Pakistan that the TTP has been directed by the Taliban government that the attacks on Pakistan land is not now akin to jihad, not now akin to holy war. So this is delegitimizing of the TTP attacks. So why is it that the Taliban government is now acquiescing to the Pakistani demands? What is the strategy behind this? How is China playing this game? And who is it that is going to benefit from these developments? I start my conversation with Ambassador Mukherjee. And Ambassador, it's a smart game that is being played by Pakistan, obviously at the behest of the Chinese. The attacks that Pakistan is wanting to reduce of the TTP from its territory seems like could be a leverage point, a bargaining chip if the Afghan refugees are threatened to be thrown out, are threatened to be deported.
Well, Megha, I don't know how smart it is for the following reasons. First of all, no self-respecting Afghan in Pakistan or in Afghanistan has ever accepted the sanctity of the Durand line, which has often been described, including by my friend, the writer Rajiv Dogra, as a knife pointed at the heart of every self-respecting Afghan. Secondly, it is also not clear how much leverage the present Taliban government actually has over the TTP. Thirdly, Pakistan gets a lot of money for hosting these refugees from the UNHCR and from the IOM. This will get drastically reduced when they do go back. The whole concept of refugee return, Megha, according to international humanitarian and refugee law, is that they should go back voluntarily. It is not at all clear, despite the threats, Megha, that a Pakistani army can forcibly, at the threat of a gun, push back millions of Afghan refugees who look just like Pakistanis, except that they are not Pakistanis. They are undocumented Afghan illegal immigrants over the border in a situation when we had 10 million East Pakistanis in Calcutta and made Calcutta look like a giant refugee camp. We neither pushed them back, nor did we get any international aid. We hosted them, and then we created returns through the liberation of East Pakistan to enable the 10 million to go back voluntarily home, which they did. So therefore, the situation here is that since the situation in Afghanistan, particularly for women and the girl child, is extremely unfortunate, and they are being pushed back into a kind of life and civilization that existed in Afghanistan in the 10th century, it will be very difficult for Pakistan to push back forcibly refugees. 66,000 have gone back. It is quite possible that under fear, many more will do so. But there will come a point when there will be those who will say that no, we cannot go back. You can do what you like with us, at which point Pakistan will face the kind of problem that Israel is facing in the Gaza Strip, which is what? Are you going to take them to the border, line them up and shoot them? You can't do that.
Okay.
How are you going to push them over the border? There is no way you can push them across the border. So therefore, these are threats. But these threats, Megha, are not smart at all. They are not going to help Pakistan. They are not going to help the Pakistani army. They are not going to help Pakistan's relations with the TTP or with the Taliban. They are not going to help Pakistan's relations with the UN, with the West, with the UNHCR. And finally, it's not going to help Pakistan's internal situation. It will exacerbate state of internal crisis and will inexorably lead to the collapse one day of the state of Pakistan. Megha.
Sumit, there have been a number of advisories, warnings that have been issued by the United Nations. Obviously, no heed is being paid to them, whether by the Pakistanis or the Afghans or the Taliban right over here. Now, when I talk about these set of events that have taken place in the last couple of months, where there has been the Pakistani minister who has visited Taliban, Taliban has assured time and again that there is action that is being taken against the TTP terrorists. They have been imprisoned and the question with regards to the Afghan refugees continues to be a talking point here. Now, obviously, the Taliban wants a strategic association with the Chinese. It wants development to take place. It wants funds to resources to come in. The CPEC project that the Afghans, the Taliban is eyeing very closely is a negotiation tool that now Pakistan is using at the behest of the Chinese. I once again say that stop the TTP attacks, allow for CPEC to then reach all over to Afghanistan.
Megha ji, thank you for having me on your show. In fact, what Pakistan is trying is a desperate step. You see, when you talk of Pakistan, you have to talk about Sunni, Punjabis and rest others. So Pakistan, Balochis, Sindhis and Pathans do not hold the same stature as Sunni Punjabis. Let you be a Shia, Hazara or anybody else. Now, the Interior Minister, the former Interior Minister was always saying that Pathans are supporting TTP. Pathans are hand in glove with TTP. It is because of the Pathans the TTP is able to act at will within Pakistan. Now, with the recent attacks what TTP has done, the Pakistani ISI and the establishment is rattled. They have no idea how to control them. So what they are doing, let's eliminate and let's take out all the Afghanis first. Then we'll have a bargaining. We will have a leverage over Taliban Pakistan and Afghani Taliban. That is the thought process there because they don't know how to control this. Second thing they want to say is, look, if they go over there and if Taliban come and negotiate with them, we can cut a deal with them. Look, we remember Bilawal went to Kabul along with the Chinese foreign minister. They were trying to do some mining business there, which ultimately did not work. Now, the idea is, look, we will keep your people here, but let the CPEC happen. Let's go and do mining in Afghanistan and let Taliban assure that there will be no problem in Xinjiang. That is what the surety they want. Now, let's not forget, China is the second country after Pakistan who has a full-fledged ambassador in Afghanistan. Though they have not recognized Taliban, but they have a full-fledged ambassador in Afghanistan. So now it's a conflict of interest. China is looking for its interest, Pakistan is looking for its interest, and Taliban are looking for their interest. So this trilateral which was there has become unilateral in three directions. So everybody is doing to their interest. Pakistan is running like headless chickens. They have no idea what they are going to do. And the fact remains, every Pathan family has an AK at home. If push comes to shove, you have 5 lakh Sena, and you're talking of pushing out 1.7 million Pathans. You have to imminently face 1 million Kalashnikovs or 1 million AKs. Can Pakistan army handle 1 million AK-47s? That is the question which Hafiz Quran, Sayyid Hafiz Asim Munir should answer, because he is just posturing, trying to show he is in control. But the thing remains that he has lost the control. There's nothing called Durian Line. The Pakistani Taliban and the Tariq-e-Taliban and the Afghan Taliban believe that forget Durian Line. The whole of KPK belongs to Afghanistan. He is doing this desperate bid to delay the eventual for as long as he can. He said, no, don't talk about KPK, otherwise I'll send you 1.7 million people back. But the fact remains, does he have the awqat? Does he have the power, stature, or even the military muscle to do it? The answer is he doesn't have it. He's mere posturing and doing all that. He gets a lot of UN money. You signed the UN Military Refugee Convention. You are just posturing. You're just trying to show that jihadi mentality which you have. And one thing I want to make here. Now, Pakistanis are Muslim. Afghanis are Muslim. The so-called leader of Ummah, the leader of the Islamic world, Pakistan, why is he pushing your fellow Muslims from your country where you are getting paid to keep them? That is the answer they want to take. That talks of the real, rung of Pakistan. They change colors like chameleons. That is the reality, Megha.
Major General A.K. Sivaj, so in a situation such as this, where China is looking to take advantage, allow for Belt and Road initiatives to then traverse into Afghanistan and then the other Middle Asian countries, Central Asian countries, how should India be tackling the situation? Should we be sitting ducks, or should we then be investing our energies, our resources, which we have been with the Afghan government in the past? How are our negotiations then going to stop the Chinese from building these deals and allowing for extraction of minerals from Taliban, from Afghanistan?
Very correct, Megha, no doubt. As far as China is concerned, their primary aim is that the China-Pakistan economic corridor should be extended from Pakistan to Afghanistan and then to Central Asian state and then going toward North-South transport corridor, because they want this Belt Road initiative to become a success. And that is the way they think that the trade can flourish, and they want to exploit the mineral resources of Afghanistan, especially in copper, cobalt, zinc, silver, gold, and iron. So they are looking for that, and that's why they are very keen that some sort of negotiation should take place between Pakistan and Taliban government, and they reach to some sort of a conclusion. No doubt about it, the area which is the Western Pakistan, what Pakistan thought that once Taliban comes into power, the things will, the days will come which will show that the bright days have come between the relation between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That hasn't happened. The whole area is now under turmoil. People are now, especially Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pashtun don't recognize Durand line. They want complete area to be part of Afghanistan. They want a Sharia law. And the Chinese are interested in their own interest that let that Afghanistan be exploited. Now, as far as India is concerned, we must understand we have invested about $3 billion in Afghanistan. And out of 118 projects, 78 projects were almost 70% completed or more than that. And there are about 35 projects which were yet to start. Now, what India should do is that India also have a workable relation with Taliban government now. India had not recognized Taliban government very correctly, neither any other nation recognized, because they don't follow the rule of the game. But our workable relation must carry on, and we should make sure that we complete those projects which are lying incomplete with Taliban government is interested. The more good relation which we have with Taliban, notwithstanding their track record as to how they are treating their women and all, it is good for us, because that is the only way to negate the influence of Chinese as well as Pakistani in Afghanistan. We must make sure, because the point which comes very correctly is, for us, Afghanistan is important. And Afghanistan in last 15 years, India has invested heavily. India has invested heavily in Chabar port also, the port which is basically going from Iran, going to Afghanistan and going to Central Asian state and then joining the North-South transport corridor. So that is very critical for us, and we are still there in Chabar port. So it is in our interest that we maintain good relations with the Taliban government in Afghanistan, complete those projects which are human-centric, which are also citizen-centric, and the people-to-people contact between Afghanistan and India are the best of it. They want India to come, and that's the only way to negate the influence of Pakistan and China. In fact, the people in Afghanistan has more confidence in Indian than Pakistani. The relationship between Pakistan and China are the lowest ebb. People in Afghanistan do not have confidence in the Pakistan. So therefore, we should also play our own game.
But while the Afghans are not confident of what Pakistan is then allowing, for when Pakistan has given refuge to the Afghans, whether the economy will sustain. There are, you know, fuel crisis, food crisis, water crisis, economy is in the doldrums, the government is in the doldrums. The situation is tense, but this is the protege of China. So the funding and the resources come from China, and therefore a stabilization assurance that is then given to the Taliban. The entire game is being played by China over here. And to further you know, qualify my statement, there is also this middle corridor that is in the works. The middle corridor that travels all the way from Russia, it is then going to coming to Turkey, and then to the Central Asian countries of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and then all the way to Xinjiang and to China, and then obviously a trajectory of it entering into Afghanistan. So there are this is not just the CPEC that China is focusing on in wanting to enter into Afghanistan, but there are other ways that it is looking to do so. One of them being the middle corridor, which is then also then going to align with the Belt and Road Initiative. So these are all in conjunction with each other. Some of them are even overlapping. So that's the larger sense of affairs, with China looking to have strategic bases and resources being poured into all these countries. But Dr. Amjad Ayub Mirza, the situation here, how can India tactfully handle the situation? A number of times where allegations have been put against India by the Pakistanis that these TTP attacks actually are the handiwork of the Indians.
Well, I wouldn't pay any heed to these kind of propaganda style, you know, allegations. These are just to cover their own failure, their own security failure, and their own inability to solve their internal matters. So, dusre pe ilzam laga do, that is the easiest way. Regarding the Afghan crisis, you see there are three types of Afghans who are living in Pakistan. And it's, first of all, let us understand that travel between Pakistan and Afghanistan has been there for centuries, actually, between Afghan, Central Asia and the whole of Bharat. This has been a common phenomenon for centuries. In the winters, they come down from the mountains with their herds to green pastures. In the summer, they go back. But now, since the Afghan war, which they call Afghan Jihad, in 1979, there were three types of Afghans who came in droves. You can remember they're heading for the border in droves, so they came in droves as well, led by their warlords who were being persecuted and their lands being confiscated by the communist regime of Nur Muhammad Taraki. And they brought these people, and it was an opportunity for the then military dictator to use them to justify his rule and the necessity for him being in power. And they earned a lot of money. So one was the warlords who came to Pakistan, and they have massive mansions in Islamabad, in Peshawar, in everywhere, in Karachi. They are very rich because they benefited from the Afghan Jihad, the drug trade, the dollars that came from America. And they, with the Pakistan Army generals and the ISI generals, they made a good life out of those millions and millions of dollars. The other Afghanis were those who came as refugees, and they were living in camps, in tents, going to their local school madrasas, being taught, you know, we know what kind of education they were getting in the madrasas, full of hate for the kafir and all that. Then there is a third type of Afghan who settled in Pakistan after prolonged intervals of visits in Pakistan as workers. और उस सड़क पे बैठ के रोड़ी कूट रहे हैं, building construction, you know, mein chale gaye. Now this, many years ago, I wrote an article which said, you know, put this argument that any Afghan who has been working in Pakistan for the past 5 years should be given an ID card and should be given citizenship.
Okay.
At the time, there were about 3 million Afghans. And I think that was the way to go forward.
Okay, all right.
Witch hunter
Fair enough. Fair enough. And also then the question, why have the United Nations not cracked down on this loophole that has been forever been taken advantage of the Pakistanis? Now, Ambassador Mukherjee, why no condemnation from the United Nations? You know, warning signs issued, condemnation of course shown, but not to the level that Israel is facing with regards to the Gaza war that is taking place right now. So while Pakistan continues to do what it wants to, completely deafening to what you know, what the United Nations says, there doesn't seem to be a global condemnation coming for Pakistan as well.
Megha, there is no comparison, frankly. What is happening in Gaza is a wholesale slaughter of Palestinian civilians in return for the slaughter of Israeli civilians by Hamas on the 7th. There's no comparison at all. The international condemnation, the UN condemnation will come, as I said, in case the Pakistanis dare, which they will not, for the reasons which Sumit pointed out, line up all these Afghan Pathans in Pathan land, in Pathan territory, on the Pathan border, on the Durand border imposed by the British on Afghanistan, and shoot them dead. That is when the condemnation will come. Will that moment ever come, Megha? Never. Never, because history is too different between what is happening in Israel and the Gaza Strip and here. Over here, what has happened is that the Pakistani army cannot distinguish between Pathan and Pathan, between Afghan Pathan and Pakistan Pathan. They regard themselves as brothers under the skin. There is no difference between them. How are they going to push them over the border? This is all posturing.
Okay.
This is going to not result in anything.
Fair
what
enough.
is going to happen is, Megha, it may result, which is probably what this bankrupt Pakistani army and government want, it may result in the UNHCR hurriedly transferring some more US dollars, because this is a beggar government which always stretches its hands out for money. It may result in the Goras falling for this ploy and sending them some more money, and for the Pakistanis to say, okay, we give them another 6-month moratorium. Nothing more, Megha.
Okay.
Don't even ever think that
all right.
Pathan land can be compared to Gaza Strip. Never.
Okay.
And that,
no,
Megha,
fair enough. I was not actually comparing this. What I was saying was that while there is condemnation pouring in from across the globe and the United Nations and the UNSCA, there has to be the other side of the spectrum that needs to be looked. Now, there have been deportations, there have been atrocities that have been meted out against Afghans, against the Pathans in Pakistan, but where is the condemnation? Where is the accountability and the responsibility that needs to be put up on Pakistan? Why do the United Nations continue to fund these countries, especially Pakistan? Quickly then, Sumit, you know, a last response from you. I only have 30 seconds. Ben, you know, there were also reports pouring in that there are certain European countries that have opened up their borders to allow for these Afghan refugees, some of them to be trickling into their countries. Something similar had happened when the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. A number of refugees then were brought into these European countries. Now, how do we look at this situation?
You see, Megha ji, if you go by what Henry Kissinger told them very recently, that Europe has done a perennial mistake by taking people of a totally different culture and faith and trying to get them into their culture, which has proved to be a failure. What the people should do, they should pay Pakistan and ensure these people live happily in Pakistan. Because if they go back to Afghanistan, Pakistan is going to lose KPK. I can give you that in writing. If they ever go back to Pakistan, Pakistan will lose KPK for good. If they stay in Pakistan, Pakistan will keep on getting the money. Some zakat will pour in from right, left, and center. That is that's what the Bihari Pakistan ultimately wants. For the Europeans to open border to such people is a danger, because you don't know with refugees how many jihadis, how many terrorists will infiltrate. Because if the border is open, you know it, I know it. Why a terrorist or a jihadi will not know it? He will also disguise as a refugee and enter. Today, United States and America is already seeing a big problem. There are a lot of Hamas, Hezbollah terrorists who are in United States. There are a lot of sleeper cells who are already there waiting to be activated. So if they open their borders again, and there'll be no time to scrutinize anybody. You have to just take the people on their face value. If they are ready to take this disaster, knowing what has happened in the world, I think then they better be doomed. That's all what I can say. It is better to pay money to Pakistan and let the Afghans be there and ultimately begin citizenship. You cannot handle them. Europe, America, you cannot handle them. Understand? It's a different race you're talking about.
Okay, all right. But I continue to put my bets on the fact that the refugees are not finally going to be deported. Pakistan is already getting what it wanted, with the Taliban taking action with the arrests that have been made, delegitimization of TTP and the attacks that take place in Pakistan. So that movement is already happening. There have been a flurry of activities, flurry of meetings that have taken place that have been initiated by China for these two leaders of the two countries being held, and they are seeing results of it on the ground as well. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, and thanks for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.